Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning and afternoon, everyone. My name is Aifa Humaira Akmalia, the third author of the paper Condemning Calamity, Affirming Principles, Critical Review, and Anti-Zionism Jew. With the first author is Hafidz Fadli and the second author is Siti Rohmah, who unfortunately cannot attend this conference. And I'm pleased to meet you all presenters in this online conference, International Conference on Palestine Studies 2024. All right. So our study is examines the stance of an Israeli historian, that is Ilan Pape. He is a scholar, an academic historian that is renowned in the world, and he is famous for his critiques against Zionism. And we did also critical review of paper statements of the 7th October and 2023 from his writings and speeches from various media like his books and his recent speeches on YouTube. We also discussed about Zionist lobbies, which is now facing difficulties like Zionist lobbies from the UK and the US and also the other governments, and also Zionist lobbies towards Palestinian supporters and Palestinians themselves. We will discuss too about Palestinian collective trauma, because the Zionist actions toward Palestinians which caused sleep disturbances towards Palestinian life. And we wrote about raising global awareness through academic efforts. And we will discuss about how academics, how scholars can raise public and global awareness towards Palestinian cause, and what can academics do to Palestine the question. And lastly, we will discuss about Pape's approach that contests mainstream narratives in Israeli citizen. Pape is known for his critics and his contradictory narratives toward the famous narrative from Zionists in history of Israel or Palestine. Okay, the methodology we used in this paper, we used textual analysis method from numerous mediums like documents, films, and newspaper. And we did 4 steps to analyze. The first one, we get the writings and speeches of Ilan Pape from his books and his speeches on YouTube. And then we study the context from other secondary data, like the review and articles from other scholars towards Ilan Pape. And then we categorize Pape's messages into some subtopics. And then lastly, we attempt to find them into a full writings. All right. So the context of this paper is not only about the 7th October 2023, it's not only about the 1948 Nakba, but we will discuss about Palestine 100 years before. And that is an assumption that the pro-Palestine equals anti-Semite. This is a famous narrative that every individual that pro-Palestine, that support Palestine, is anti-Semite, including the Jews themselves. So there are some few groups of Jews, like the leftists, the humanists, the Orthodox Jews, that keep protesting the Zionist occupation and campaigning the freedom of Palestine. And they were also the first group that reject the British mandatory toward the Zionists in Palestine. And then the divorce is backed by intellectuals too. We are particularly discussing about the topic that is always committed and validating the new history, the new construction of history of the Palestine. And then there are also the other academics, the Jewish academics like Friesel, Greenstein, Carlstrom, and Metal-Handed also contradicts the narrative of Israeli history. And what is the difference? What is the difference from our paper and the other similar paper? That our focus is discussing how an Israeli born and educated in Israel earned his BA and teaches in Israel, shows cons to Israel narratives, and shows a strong support for Palestinians. All right. So first one, we will discuss about a brief history of the Israel and Palestine for the background. So there is the narrative in Israel is like that Palestine is a barren land and desolate land before the coming of Zionism, but in fact, Palestine was not a barren land. It was a thriving region under Ottoman, but mostly Muslims, and there were also the minority of Jews and Christians. At that time, before the establishment of the state of Israel, there were no persecution of Jews in Europe. We know that there was a Holocaust that happened to the Jews in Europe, and because of that, they sought to find a land for themselves. They sought to colonize Palestine, and they gained momentum under the leadership of Theodor Herzl, who promoted Zionism, and the first Congress of Zionism happened in Europe in 1977. In 1897, the first Zionist Congress. But at that time, actually, the Zionist movement was not gaining any strong support from the Jews in Europe. And until the death of Theodor Herzl himself in 1904, it hadn't much reached any. It didn't reach any actual plans. But the Zionism movement strengthened by Balfour Declaration in 1917 from British government, and since that time, the Palestine region under British mandate, and actually until 1936, the Palestinians didn't realize that they have colonization or they have some issue towards their land, but in 1936, Palestinians realized that they were losing their jobs, they were losing their rights, and that caused Palestinian revolt. At that time, that is the first time British demolished 2,000 of Palestinians' homes. And eventually, in 1947, the British mandate come to an end, and they transferred the control of the region to the United Nations with two proposals. The first is the unitary state which keep the existing Jews and not welcoming the upcoming settlers. And the second option is the two-state option, which is the option that agreed by the United Nations, resulting in Resolution 181. And then after that, the Israel state has established, and the Nakba happened, resulting in mass atrocities, mass killings, mass rapes towards Palestinians. And until now, we see the action of Israel, the horror action by Israel, the attacks continuing in 2008, in 2012, and then the latest is 2023, 7 October until now. Okay, we will discuss about Ivan Pape and his epistle work. So Ivan Pape himself is a historian, author, and professor. He was born in Haifa, Israel, 1954. He earned his bachelor degree from Hebrew University in Jerusalem in 1979, and then he earned his DPhil from University of Oxford in 1984. And during this time, he met some influential Palestinians that eventually changed his mind. He questioning the truth of his land. And then after that, he continued to research about Palestine. His research focused mainly about connection between UK and the Israel establishment, and also the 1948 Nakba, the ethnic cleansing that we can see throughout his writings, and also his historical approach is his writing approach is through historical accounts. So we will find that in all Pape's writings, Pape's speeches, that he always come back to historic papers, to historical sources. And then why does the Israeli historian, Israeli citizen, Israeli academics so strong supporting Palestine? What events that influence him towards this? The events that actually make a trauma for Ivan Pape is the 1948 Nakba. That this is the first time he learned about the Israel atrocities, that Israel is not the victim but the aggressor. And then the trauma for Ivan Pape himself is the Tantura massacre, and then the Lebanon attack in 1982 that made him realize that Israel is the evil one. And then after that, he continued to support Palestine, to spread Palestinian cause to all over the world. And he moved to the UK in 2007 after he encountered academic threats upon returning to Israel from the UK. So in 1984, he returned to Israel, but he was rejected by the Israeli government, by the Zionist government. He also encountered that in the universities in Israel, they are never study about the Nakba. They never talk about the Palestine. And his family too gained threats and ban him and also train him as traitor. So there was rejection of freedom as academia for Ivan Pape in Israel. Therefore, he prefers to give his speeches and thoughts abroad rather than in Israel. And that is because his account is seen as the most extreme criticism towards Zionism. Additionally, now we can see that Zionism is keeping lobbies towards various lobbies. Yeah, like this one we can see global Israel and global Palestine as Pape described in his speeches. Global Israel include most governments like the US and the UK, and then the mainstream media, most academia, large multinational corporations, and military and security industries. That is keep spreading the narrative that Israel is the right one to capture the land. And we talk about the global Palestine too, which includes civil society, oppressed minorities, some governments in global south, and then human rights organizations that united and believe that the land of Palestine is the right to Palestine. And they keep this support because the moral value they see themselves, they see Israel action is not right action. And unfortunately, although in some missions Israel or Zionism is successful, but Zionists remain feeling unsafe. The lobby will keep existing. They will keep doing it and seek for Palestinian legitimation. As long as Palestine does not recognize Israel, and as long the world is seeing the Israel atrocities towards Palestinians, the Zionists will remain unsafe. And until now, we see the action, the brutal atrocities, the brutal action towards Palestinians. It makes the Zionist lobbies keeping further and further away from the world's legitimation. Okay, and we will discuss about Palestinians' collective trauma that is written in Bilal Hamamra and Ilan research. We found that the war in Palestine causes split disturbances for the refugees, for the Palestinians, and that also causes mental disorders for almost all of Palestinians. And that is why we discuss this, because the issue of sleep, the issue of not having a proper place to sleep, and the proper factors include the identity. So the issue of sleep is also an issue of identity, and sleep is one of the basic human rights. And this is not exist in Palestine, and this linkage to Palestinian history, and that is because Israel. So the paper also critiques to Arab leaders how they are serious struggling for Palestine liberation, and also they keep silent, especially these critics towards Palestine Authority or PA, and they are still sleeping soundly. And then lots of fundamental human rights represent colonization, trauma, and resistance. Also, the latest is we discuss about raising public awareness through intellectual access. As we all know that the Israel narrative is to spread the news that the Palestine land is a barren land, desolate land, and that is the right to Israel, to the Jews and the world, and still echoing narrative of anti-Semitism, like a construction of knowledge. A construction is the ones that they say the Israel land nowadays is the one that the Arab take from them before. So they have the authority, they have the right to take them back. But in contrast, pro-Palestinians in all over the world remain not silent. We can see that in various news, especially the latest one year, the past year, we can see that we do all demonstrations in all over the world, including the protests from academics. Even though Ilan Pape himself received threats, and all his friends too in the United States especially, they received some threats and bans from some conference and speeches, but the pro-Palestinian is not remain silent. That is the case of the European Center of Palestine Studies, ECPS, of University of Exeter, the institute that Ilan Pape teaches. It faced the challenges from Jewish Leadership Council, like condemning Exeter's anti-Semitic conference and demanding cancel. So that is the first time British public aware of Palestine studies. That is the first time that has realized the Palestinian studies is one of the Israel interests. Despite they don't recognize Palestine, the Palestinian studies is a threat for Israel because that is threatening its international legitimacy. And also, academics cannot be lobbied by Zionists. That is the one group that cannot be lobbied by Zionists because they construct the true narrative, the true history, and weaken misleading historical narrative of Israel, of Zionism. So in conclusion, most of Iran published ideas, concepts, and statements revert to historical evidence he found during his research. Further finds that Israel's lobby will not end, and he optimistic about the global development of Palestinian cities. What the Zionists have done not only this past year, but also since its establishment must be condemned. Everyone needs to find the truth, looking for, learning, and analyzing every single piece of original evidence. That is the description of our paper, and we all hope that we will have a fruitful discussion. Thank you very much for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.